Hello and welcome, fellow bookworms. I'm the narrator, and we'll be continuing into Artemis Fowl Book 1, Chapter 5, Missing in Action. Commander Root was sucking on a particularly noxious fungus cigar. Several of the retrieval squad had nearly passed out in the shuttle. Even the stench from the manacled troll seemed mild in comparison. Of course, no one said anything, their boss being touchier than a septic boil. Foley, on the other hand, delighted in antagonizing his superior. "None of your rancid stogies in here, Commander," he brayed the moment Root made it back to ops. "The computers don't like smoke." Root scowled, certain that Foley was making this up. Nevertheless, the commander was not prepared to risk a computer crash in the middle of an alert, so he doused his cigar in a coffee cup of a passing gremlin. "Now, Foley, what's this so-called alert? And it better be good this time." The centaur had a tendency to go completely hyper over trivialities. He had once gone to DEFCON 2 because his human satellite stations were out. "It's good, alright," Foley assured him. "Or should I say bad? Very bad." Root felt the ulcer in his gut begin to bubble like a volcano. "How bad?" Foley punched up Ireland on the Eurostat. "We lost contact with Captain Short." "Why am I not surprised?" groaned Root, burying his face in his hands. "We had her all the way over the Alps." "The Alps? She took a land route?" Foley nodded. "Against regulations, I know, but everyone does it." The commander agreed grudgingly. Who could resist a view like that? As a rookie, he'd been placed on report himself for that exact offense. "Okay, move on. When did we lose her?" Foley opened a viewer window on the screen. "This is the feed of Holly's helmet unit. Here we are over Disneyland Paris." The centaur pressed the fast forward. "Now Dolphin, blah blah blah, the Irish coastline, still no worries. Look, her locator comes into shot. Captain Short is scanning for magical hotspots. Site 57 shows up red, so she heads for that one." "Why not Tara?" Foley snorted. "Tara? Every fairy hippie in the northern hemisphere will be dancing around the live veil at the full moon. There'll be so many shields on it, it'll look like the whole place is underwater." "Fine," grunted Groot through gritted teeth. "Just get on with it, will you?" "Alright, don't get your ears in a knot." Foley skipped several minutes to take. "Now, here's the interesting bit. Nice smooth landing, hangs up the wings, Holly takes off the helmet." "Against regulations," interjected Root. LAP officers must never remove their headgear above ground unless that headgear is defective," completed Foley. "Yes, Commander, we all know what the handbook says. Are you trying to tell me that you never sneaked a breath of air after a few hours in the sky?" "No," admitted Root. "What are you, her fairy godmother or something? Get to the important part." Foley smirked behind his hand. Driving up Root's blood pressure was one of the few perks of the job. No one else would dare to do it. That was because everybody else was replaceable. Not Foley. He had built the system from scratch, and if anyone else even tried to boot it up, a hidden virus would bring it crashing around in 20 years. The important part. Here we are. Look. Suddenly Holly drops the helmet. It must land down because we lose picture. We got sound though, so I'll bring that up. Foley boosted the audio signal, filtering out the background noise. "Not good quality. The mic is in the camera. So so that was nose down in the dirt too." "Not sure," said a voice, definitely human. Deep too. That usually meant big. Root raised an eyebrow. "Pea shooter." Slang for gun. "Oh." Then the importance of that simple statement struck him. She drew her weapon. "Just wait, it gets worse." "I don't suppose you would consider a peaceful surrender," said a second voice. Just listening to it gave the commander shivers. "No," continued the voice, "I suppose not." "This is bad," said Root, his face uncharacteristically pale. "This feels like a setup. These two goons were waiting. How is that possible?" Holly's voice came through the speaker then, typically brazen in the face of danger. The commander sighed. At least she was alive. There was more bad news, though, as the parties exchanged threats, and the second human displayed an uncommon knowledge of fairy affairs. "He knows about the ritual." "Here's the worst bit." Root's jaw dropped. "The worst bit?" Holly's voice again, this time layered with the Mesmer. "Now she has them," crowed Root. But apparently not. Not only did the Mesmer prove ineffective, but the mysterious pair seemed to find it amusing. "That's all there is from Holly," noted Foley. "One of the mud people messes around with the camera for a bit, and then we lose everything." Root rubbed the creases between his eyes. Not much to go on. No visual, not even name. We can't really be 100% sure if we have the situation. You want proof? Asked Foley, rewinding the tape. I'll give you proof. He ran the available video. Now, watch this. I'm going to slow it right down, 1 frame per second. Root leaned in close to the screen, close enough to see the pixels. Captain Shark comes in for a landing. She takes off her helmet, stands down, presumably to pick up an acorn, and there. Foley jabbed the pause button, freezing the picture completely. See anything unusual? The commander felt his pulse churn into overdrive. Something had appeared in the top right-hand corner of the frame. At first glance, it seemed like a shaft of light, but light from what, or reflected from what? Can you blow that up? No problem. Foley cut to the irrelevant area, increasing it by 400%. The light expanded to fill the room. Oh no, breathed Root. There on the monitor before them, in frozen suspension, was a hypodermic dart. There could be no doubt. Captain Holly Short was missing in action. Most probably dead, but at the very least held captive by a hostile force. Tell me we still have the locator. Yep, strong signal, moving north at about 80 clicks an hour. Root was silent for a moment, formulating his strategy. Go full alert, and get retrieval out of their bunks and back down here. Prep them for a surface shot. I want full tactical and a couple of techies. You too, Foley. We may have to stop time for this one. 10-4, Commander. You want recon on this? Root nodded. You bet. I'll call him Captain Vane. He's our #1. Oh no, said Root. For a job like this, we need our very best, and that's me. I'm reactivating myself. Foley was so amazed he couldn't even formulate a smart comment. You're... Yes, Foley, don't act so surprised. I have more successful recons under my belt than any officer in history. Plus, I did my basic training in Ireland, back in the Top Hat and Shalala days. Yeah, but that was 500 years ago, and you were no spring bud then, not to put a too fine a point on it. Root smiled dangerously. Don't worry, Foley. I'm still running red hot, and I'll make up for my age with a really big gun. Now get a pod ready. I'm leaving on the next flare. Foley did what he was told without a single quip. When the commander got that glint in his eye, you hopped too and kept your mouth shut. But there was another reason for Foley's silent compliance. It had just hit him that Holly could be in real trouble. Centaurs don't make many friends, and Foley was worried he might lose one of the few he had. Artemis had anticipated some technological advances, but nothing like the treasure trove of ferry hardware spread on the four-wheel drive's dashboard. Impressive, he murmured. We could abort this mission right now and still make a fortune in patents. Artemis ran a handheld scanner bar over the unconscious elf's wristband. He then faded the fairy characters into his powerbook translator. This is a locator of some kind. No doubt this leprechaun's comrade is tracking us right now. Butler swallowed. Right now, sir? It would seem so. Or at any rate, they're tracking the locator. Artemis stopped speaking suddenly, his eyes losing focus as electricity in his cranium sparked off another brainwave. Butler? The manservant felt his pulse quicken. He knew that tone. Something was afoot. Yes, Artemis? The Japanese waiter, the one seized by the Port Authority. She's still tied up at the docks. Butler nodded. Yes, I believe so. Artemis twirled the locator's band around his index finger. Good. Take us down. I believe it's time to let us diminutive friends know who we're dealing with. Root rubber-stamped his own reactivation with remarkable speed. Very unusual for LEP upper management. Generally, it took months and several mind-crushingly dull meetings to prove any application to the recon squad. Luckily, Root had a bit of influence with the commander. It felt good to be back in a field uniform, and Root even managed to convince himself that the jumpsuit was no tighter around the middle than it used to be. The bulge, he rationalized, was caused by all the new equipment they jammed into these things. Personally, Root had no time for gadgetry. The only items the commander were interested in were the wings on his back and the multi-phase water-cooled tri-barrel blaster strapped to his hip, the most powerful production handgun under the world. Old, to be sure, but it had seen Root through a dozen firefights and made him feel like a field officer again. The nearest chute to Holly's position was E1, Tara. Not exactly an ideal location for a stealth mission, but with barely 2 hours of moon time left, there was no time for an overground jaunt. If there was to be any chance of sorting out this mess before sunrise, speed was of the essence. He commandeered the E1 shuttle for his team, bumping into a group that had apparently been online for 2 years. Tough nuggets, Groot growled at the holiday rep. What's more, I'm shutting down all non-essential flights until the present crisis is past. And when might that be? Squeaked the irate gnome, brandishing a notebook as though she was prepared to make a complaint of some kind. Groot spat out the butt of his cigar, squashing it comprehensively beneath his boot heel. The symbolism was all too obvious. The chute will be open, madam, when I feel like it, growled the commander, and if you and your fluorescent uniform don't get out of my way, I'll yank your operating license and have you thrown into the cells for obstructing an LP officer. The holiday rep wilted before him and slunk back into line, wishing her uniform wasn't quite so pink. Foley was waiting at the pod. Serious though the moment was, he couldn't resist an amused whinny at the sight of Root's belly wobbling ever so slightly into his clinging jumpsuit. Are you sure about this, Commander? Generally, we only allow one passenger per pod. What do you mean? Snarled Root. There is only one. Then he caught Foley's meaningful glance at his stomach. Oh, ha ha, very amusing. Keep it up, Foley, I have my limit, you know. But that was a hollow threat, and they both knew it. Not only had Foley built a communications network from scratch, but he was also a pioneer in the field of flare prediction. Without him, human technology could very easily catch up with the fairy brand. Root strapped himself into the pod. No half-century-old crafts for the commander. This baby was fresh off the assembly line, all silver and shiny with the new jagged fin stabilizers that were supposed to read the magma currents automatically. Foley's innovation, of course. For a century or so, his pod designs had leaned toward the futuristic, plenty of neon and rubber. Lately, however, his sensibilities had become more retrospective, replacing the gadgetry of walnut dashes and leather upholstery. Root found this old-style decor strangely comforting. He wrapped his fingers around the joysticks and suddenly realized just how long it had been since he'd ridden the hotshots. Foley noticed his discomfort. Don't worry, Chief, he said without the usual cynicism. It's like riding a unicorn. You never forget. Root grunted, unconvinced. Let's get the show on the road, he muttered, before I change my mind. Foley hauled the door across until the suction ring took hold, sealing the portal with a pneumatic hiss. Root's face took on a green hue through the quartz pane. He didn't look too scary anymore. Quite the opposite, in fact. Artemis was performing a little field surgery on the fairy locator. It was no mean feat to alter some of the dimensions without destroying the mechanisms. The technologies were most definitely incompatible. Imagine trying to perform open heart surgery with a sledgehammer. The first problem was opening the cursed thing. The screwheads defied both flathead and Phillips screwdrivers. Even Artemis' extensive set of Allen wrenches were unable to find purchase in the tiny grooves. Think futuristic, Artemis told himself. Think advanced technology. It came to him after a few moments of silent contemplation. Magnetic bolts. Obvious, really. But how to construct a revolving magnetic field in the back of a four-wheel drive? Impossible. The only thing for it was to chase the screws out manually with the domestic magnet. Artemis hunted the small magnet from its niche in the toolbox and applied both poles to the tiny screws. The negative side wiggled them slightly. It was enough to give Artemis some room to maneuver with needle-nose pliers, and soon had the locator's panel disassembled before him. The circuitry was minute, not a sign of a solder bead. He must use another form of binder. Perhaps if he had the time, the principles of this device could be unraveled. But for now, he would have to improvise. He would have to rely on the inattention of others, and if the people were anything like humans, they saw what they wanted to see. Artemis held the locator's face up to the cab's light. It was translucent, slightly polarized, but good enough. He nudged a slew of tiny, shimmering wires aside, inserting a buttonhole camera in the space. He secured the pea-sized transmitter with a dab of silicone. Crude, but effective. Hopefully. The magnetic screws refused to be coaxed back into their grooves without the proper tool, so Artemis was forced to glue them too. Messy, but it should suffice, provided the locator wasn't examined too closely. And if it was, well, he'd only lose an advantage that he never expected to have in the first place. Butler knocked off his high beams as they entered the city limits. Dock's coming up, Artemis, he said over his shoulder. There's bound to be a customs and excise crew around somewhere. Artemis nodded. It made sense. The port was a thriving artery of illegal activity. Over 50% of the country's contraband made it ashore somewhere along this half-mile stretch. The diversion then, Butler. 2 minutes are all I need. The manservant nodded thoughtfully. The usual. I don't see why not. Knock yourself out. Or rather, don't. Artemis blinked. That was his second joke in recent times, and his first aloud. Better take care. This is no time for frivolity. The dockers were rolling cigarettes. It wasn't easy with fingers the size of lead bars, but they managed. And if a few strands of brown tobacco dropped to the rough flagstone, what of it? Pouches were available by the carton from a little man who didn't bother adding government taxes to his prices. Butler strolled over to the men, his eyes shadowed beneath the brim of a watch cap. Cold night, he said to the assembled group. No one replied. Policemen came in all shapes and sizes. The big stranger persevered. Even work is better than standing around on a frosty night like this. One of the workmen, a bit soft in the head, couldn't help nodding in agreement. The comrade drove an elbow into his ribs. Still, though, continued the newcomer, I don't suppose you girls ever did a decent day's work in your lives. Again there was no reply, but this time it was because the dockers' mouths were hanging open in amazement. Yep, you're a pathetic-looking bunch, all right, went on Butler blithely. Oh, I have no doubt you would have passed as men during the famine, but by today's standards you're little more than a pack of blouse-wearing weaklings. Arrgh! Said one of the dockhands. It was all he could manage. Butler raised an eyebrow. Arrgh? Pathetic and inarticulate. Nice combination. Your mothers must be so proud. The stranger had crossed the sacred line. He had mentioned the men's mothers. Nothing could get him out of a beating now, not even the fact that he was obviously a simpleton, albeit a simpleton with a good vocabulary. The men stamped out their cigarettes and spread slowly into a semicircle. It was 6 against 1. He had to feel sorry for him. Butler wasn't finished yet. Now before we get into anything, ladies, no scratching, no spitting, and no tattling to mommy. It was the last straw. The men howled and attacked as one. If they had been paying any attention to their adversary in that moment before contact, they would have noticed that he shifted his weight to lower his center of gravity. They might also have seen that the hands he drew out of his pockets were the size and approximate shape of spades. But no one was paying attention to Butler, too busy watching their comrades, making sure they weren't alone in the assault. The thing about a diversion is that it has to be diverting. Big, crude, not Butler style at all. He would have preferred to take these gentlemen out from 500 feet with a dart rifle. Failing that, if contact was absolutely necessary, a series of thumb jabs to the nerve cluster at the base of the neck would be his chosen modus operandi. Quiet as a whisper. But that would be defeating the purpose of the exercise. And so Butler went against his training, screaming like a demon and utilizing the most vulgar combat actions. Vulgar they may have been, but that's not to say they weren't effective. Perhaps a Shaolin priest could have anticipated some of the more exaggerated movements, but these men were hardly trained adversaries. In fairness, they weren't even completely sober. Butler dropped the first with a roundhouse punch. 2 more had their heads clapped together, cartoon style. The fourth was, to Butler's eternal shame, dispatched with a spinning kick. But the most ostentatious was saved for the last pair. The manservant rolled onto his back, caught them by the collars of their donkey jackets, and flipped them into Dublin Harbor. Big splashes, plenty of whaling. Perfect. The 2 headlights poked from the black shadow of a cargo container, and a government saloon screeched along the quay. As anticipated, a customs and excise team on station. Butler grinned with grim satisfaction and ducked around the corner. He was long gone before the agents had flipped their badges or begun inquiries. Not that their interrogations would yield much. Big as a house was hardly an adequate description to track him down. By the time Butler reached the car, Artemis had already returned from his mission. Well, old friend, he commented, although I'm certain the martial law sensei is turning in his grave. A spinning kick? How could you? Butler bit his tongue, reversing the 4-wheel drive off the wooding works. As they crossed the overpass, he couldn't resist glancing down at the chaos he had created. Government men were hauling a sodden docker from the polluted waters. Artemis had needed this diversion for something, but Butler knew there was no point in asking what. His employer did not share his plans with anyone until he thought the time was right, and if Artemis Fowl thought the time was right, then it usually was. Root emerged shaking from the pod. He didn't remember it being like this in his time, although, truth be told, it had probably been an awful lot worse. Back in the Shalila days, there were no fancy polymer harnesses, no auto thrusters, and certainly no external monitors. It was just gut instinct and a touch of enchantment. In some ways, Root preferred it like that. Times was taking the magic out of everything. He stumbled down the tunnel into the terminal. As the number one preferred destination, Tara had a fully fledged passenger lounge. 6 shuttles a week came in from Haven City alone. Not on the flares, of course. Paying tourists didn't like to be jostled around quite that much, unless, of course, they were on an illegal jaunt to Disneyland. The ferry fort was crammed with full moon overnighters complaining about the shuttle suspension. A beleaguered sprite was sheltering behind her ticket desk, besieged by angry gremlins. "There's no point in hexing me," squealed the sprite. "There's an elf where you'd want right there." She pointed a quivering green finger at the approaching commander. The gremlin mob turned on Root, and when they saw the triple-barrel blaster on his hip, they kept right on turning. Root grabbed the microphone from behind the desk and hauled it out to the extent of its cable. "Now hear this," he growled, his gravelly tones echoing around the terminal. "This is Commander Root of the LEP. We have a serious situation above ground, and I would appreciate cooperation from all you civilians. First, I would like you all to stop your yapping so I can hear myself think." Root paused to make sure his wishes were being respected. They were. "Secondly, I would like every single one of you, including those squalling infants, to sit down on the courtesy benches until I have gone my way. Then you can get back to griping or stuffing your faces, or whatever else it is civilians do." No one had ever accused Root of political correctness. No one was ever likely to, either. "And I want whoever's in charge to get over here. Now!" Root tossed the stand onto the desk. A blare of whistling feedback grated on every eardrum in the building. Within fractions of a second, an out-of-breath elf-goblin hybrid was bobbing at his elbow. "Anything we can do, Commander?" Root nodded, twisting a thick cigar into the hole beneath his nose. I want you to open up a tunnel straight through this place. I don't want to be bothered by customs or immigration. Start moving everybody below after my boys get here." The shuttleport director swallowed. "Everybody?" "Yes, that includes terminal personnel. And take everything you can carry. Full evacuation." He stopped and glared into the director's mauve eyes. "This is not a drill." "You mean—" "Yes," said Root, continuing down the access ramp. "The mud people have committed an overtly hostile act. Who knows where this is going?" The elf-goblin combo watched as Root disappeared into a cloud of cigar smoke. An overtly hostile act? It could mean war. He punched in his accountant's number on his mobile. "Bark? Yes, this is Nimbus. I want you to sell all my shares in the shuttleport. Yes, all of them. I have a hunch the price is about to take a severe dive." Captain Holly Short felt as though a sucker slug was drawing her brain out through her ear hole. She tried to figure out what could possibly have caused such agony, but her faculties didn't stretch to memory just yet. Breathing and lying down were about all she could manage. Time to attempt a word. Something short and pertinent. Help, she decided, would be the one to go for. She took a trembling breath and opened her lips. "Oh," said her treacherous lips. No good. Incomprehensible even by drunken gnome standards. What was going on here? She was flat on her back with no more strength in her body than a damp new tunnel root. What could have done this to her? Holly concentrated, skirting the edge of blinding pain. Troll? That it? Had the troll mauled her in that restaurant? That would explain a lot, but no. She seemed to remember something about the old country, and the ritual, and there was something digging into her ankle. "Hello?" A voice, not hers, not even elfin. "You awake then?" One of the European languages. Latin. No, English. She was in England? "I thought the dart might have killed you. Aliens' insides are different from ours. I saw that on television." Gibberish. Aliens' insides? What was the creature talking about? "You look fit, like Muchacho Maria. She's a Mexican midget wrestler." Holly groaned. Her gift of tongues must be on the blink. Time to see exactly what kind of craziness she was dealing with here. Focusing all her strength at the front of her head, Holly cracked one eye open. She closed it again almost immediately. There appeared to be a giant blonde fly staring down at her. "Don't be scared," said the fly. "Just sunglasses." Holly opened both eyes at this time. The creature was tapping a silver eye. No, not an eye. A lens. A mirrored lens. Like the lenses worn by the other two. It all came back in a jolt, rushing to fill the hole in her memory like a combination lock clicking into place. She had been abducted by two humans during the ritual. Two humans with an extraordinary knowledge of fairy affairs. Holly tried speaking again. Where am I? The human giggled delightedly, clapping her hands together. Holly noticed her nails, long and painted. Speak English. What sort of accent is that? Sounds like a little bit of everything. Holly frowned. The girl's voice was corkscrewing right to the middle of her head. She lifted her arm. No locator. Where are my things? The girl wagged her finger as one might a naughty child. Artemis had to take your little gun away, and all those other toys. Couldn't have you hurting yourself. Artemis? Artemis Fowl. This was all his idea. Everything is always his idea. Holly frowned. Artemis Fowl. For some reason, even the name made her shiver. It was a bad omen. Fairy intuition was never wrong. It'll come from me, you know, she said, her voice rasping through dry lips. Don't know what you've done. The girl frowned. You're absolutely right. I have no clue what's going on, so there's no future in trying to psych me out. Holly frowned. It was obviously pointless playing mind games with this human. Mesmer was her only hope, but that couldn't penetrate reflective surfaces. How the devil did these humans know that? They could be worked out later. That could be worked out later. For now, she had to figure a way to separate the vacuous girl from her mirrored sunglasses. You are a pretty human, she said, her voice dripping with honey flattery. Why, thank you, Holly. Why, thank you, Holly. I was in the local paper once. I won a competition. Miss Sugarbeet Fair 1999. I knew it. Natural beauty. I bet your eyes are spectacular. So everyone tells me, Juliet nodded. Lashes like clock springs. Holly sighed. Only I can see them. Why ever not? Juliet's fingers curled around the glassy stem. Then she hesitated. Maybe I shouldn't. Why not? Just for a second? I don't know. Artemis told me never to take these off. You never know. Juliet pointed to a view cam mounted on the wall. Oh, he'd find out. Artemis finds out about everything. She leaned in close to the fairy. Sometimes I think he can see inside my head, too. Holly frowned, followed again by this Artemis creature. Come on, 1 second. What harm could it do? Juliet pretended to think about it. None, I suppose. Unless, of course, you're hoping to nail me with the Mesmer. Just how stupid do you think I am? I have another idea, said Holly, her tone altogether more serious. Why don't I get up, knock you out, and take those stupid sunglasses off? Juliet laughed delightedly, as if this was the most ridiculous thing she had ever heard. Good one, fairy girl. I'm deadly serious, human. Well, if you're serious, sighed Juliet, reaching a delicate finger behind her lens to wipe away a tear. 2 reasons. One, Artemis said that while you're in a human dwelling, you have to do what we want, and I want you to stay on that cot. Holly closed her eyes. Right again. Where did this group get their information? And 2, Juliet smiled again, but this time there was a hint of her brother in those teeth. 2, because I went through the same training as Butler, and I've been dying for someone to practice my pile driver on. We'll see about that, human, thought Holly. Captain Short wasn't 100% yet, but there was also a small matter of the thing digging in her ankle. She thought she knew what it could be, and if she was right, then it could be the beginnings of a plan. Alright. This will be the end of chapter 5 so far. There's a couple more pages left, but it's nice and long already, so I will finish this up in a second video.